Hello everyone. Back again with film recaps. In this video, I'm going to recap one of the horror slasher films from 2025, titled Fear Street, Prom Queen. Before we get to the storyline, I'd like to wish everyone a happy and great day. Without further ado, let's get straight to the storyline. The movie opens in 1998, where we meet our protagonist, Lori Granger, who lives in a small town called Shadyside, and attends the local high school. She narrates that her town has a reputation for being cursed, and something happens here that makes people go insane. Regardless, her vice principal, Dolores, is determined to reshape the town's image. She's organizing a prom event in the hopes that it will help people stop associating the town with bloodshed. Lori then introduces the prom queen contenders, and the first one is Tiffany Falconer, who's the leader of a bully group called Wolfpack. Next is another girl named Christy, who is a small-time weed dealer, and a big-time rebel. Then there are the Wolfpack members, Linda, Debbie, and Melissa, who are basically Tiffany's lapdogs. The final contestant is our protagonist, Lori, who is the least popular among these girls. Next, we meet Lori's stoner best friend, Megan, who doesn't care about prom but still supports her. Later, we see all of them in class, and their teacher, Dan, asks Lori what she wants to be in the future. Megan says her best friend wants to be a writer, but the Wolfpack starts making fun of Lori, and brings up the incident when her mom stabbed her dad. Megan insists it isn't true, but the mean girls don't stop and keep mocking Lori. Fed up with the Wolfpack, Megan suddenly pulls out a cleaver and does this.
This is on you, you evil fucks!
But it turns out to be just a prank. Though the students are amused, Dan is furious and orders Megan to go to the vice principal's office immediately. In the evening, we see Lori working as a waitress in a local restaurant, where the Wolfpack also shows up. Tiffany's boyfriend, Tyler, is seen staring at Lori, and she also keeps glancing at him. The situation becomes quite uncomfortable as Tiffany starts insulting her again. A few hours later, as Lori is about to close up, Tyler returns because he had forgotten his jacket. They chat for a while, and he tells her it's cool that she wants to be a writer. He admires her big dreams, and admits he feels like a loser because his parents and Tiffany don't believe he's capable of doing anything in life. That evening at Tiffany's home, Tiffany tries on her prom dress while her mom, Nancy, admires how pretty she looks. Plus, Dan, the teacher, turns out to be Tiffany's father. Not far away, Christy is selling weed to some students from another town. After they leave, she begins walking home on the empty street by herself. Christy suddenly hears noises nearby and looks back, but no one is there. Here, we notice a masked man in a red cloak behind her, holding an axe and approaching her. Before Christy can notice him, the man violently slashes her shoulder. She pleads for her life, but the killer shows no mercy and delivers a fatal blow. The next day, Christy doesn't show up for prom practice, which automatically disqualifies her from the prom. This now leaves only the Wolfpack and Lori as the remaining prom queen contenders. Meanwhile, the killer is seen flipping through the school yearbook, scanning the prom candidates. He crosses out Christy's picture from it and tosses her boots into the fire. The following evening, it's finally prom night, and we see Tiffany getting ready beautifully. Nancy lets her know that no matter what happens that night, she is very proud of her. However, she also emphasizes that Tiffany shouldn't even think about losing to Lori because it would be a shame. On the other hand, Lori also gets ready beautifully, and her mom, Rosemary, compliments her. She also apologizes to Lori for having to carry the weight of the terrible story of her dad's death. Sometime later, the students finally arrive for prom, and Lori appears with Megan as her date. The event kicks off, and Dolores greets the crowd, urging them to choose the candidate who truly embodies the school's values. She then invites all the prom king and queen candidates to step onto the stage and introduce themselves. Upon hearing this, the male candidates and Lori step onto the stage, but the other girls are nowhere in sight. Just as they're about to introduce themselves, the Wolfpack suddenly appears in swimsuits, and begins performing strange dances. This makes poor Lori uncomfortable, and she tries to leave, but they block her path and make her feel humiliated and out of place. After the bizarre performance, the girls go to change, and we soon see Linda and her boyfriend arriving at the storeroom to get her flyers. But to their shock, they find her flyers torn up and with mustaches painted on them. This makes Linda very angry, and she heads off to confront whoever pranked her. But shortly after she leaves, her boyfriend gets terrified when he hears a slashing noise in the distance. Just then, Linda returns, but only to frighten the boyfriend when he notices she's been brutally stabbed, and her guts are spilling out. Linda collapses dead, and behind her is the killer with the red cloak. The horrified boyfriend tries to run, but the killer slices both of his hands with a paper cutter. Despite the injury, the young man somehow drags himself to the door, but can't open the locks without a hand. The scene then returns to the party, where Lori is approached by the principal, who informs her that a delivery has arrived for her outside the school. Elsewhere, Debbie and her boyfriend head to the school's basement to spend some private time. He gives her a beautiful necklace he stole from his mother, making her really happy. Meanwhile, Lori arrives at the front door, where a delivery guy hands her a bouquet sent by an anonymous person. The flowers come with a note that says, "Hope you don't choke," which confuses the hell out of her. The scene then returns to the basement, where Debbie and her boyfriend begin kissing, right when they are interrupted by strange noises nearby. But then, the killer appears and slashes the boyfriend's face with a buzzing saw. Debbie screams so loudly that even Megan can hear her upstairs, but Megan doesn't think much of it and heads to the prom hall. Debbie, meanwhile, tries to escape, but accidentally trips and falls into an electrical outlet, tragically electrocuting herself. Elsewhere, Lori is walking down the corridor when Tiffany appears, and gets jealous that someone sent her flowers. She starts hurling insults, and soon Melissa also arrives. Tiffany then cruelly brings up Lori's mom, claiming she fell in love with a guy in high school and got pregnant. And when he refused to marry her, she went crazy and stabbed him on prom night. Though the police couldn't prove it, everyone knew she did it, and the baby is none other than Lori. The words hit Lori like a ton of bricks, and she walks away without saying anything. Even Melissa is disgusted by Tiffany, and informs her that she went too far this time. At this moment, Debbie's silver necklace is lodged between the wires in the power panel, causing the lighting in the ballroom to flicker. The principal thus sends a janitor to the basement to check the electric panel. Meanwhile, we see Lori in the bathroom, and her makeup has been smudged from tears. A concerned Melissa checks on her and hands her a makeup bag so she can fix herself up. Not long after, Lori returns to the party with a new look and renewed confidence. Melissa approaches and compliments her, but they're quickly interrupted by a jealous Tiffany. She starts insulting her own friend, and demands that Melissa return the prom dress she borrowed. Even worse, Tiffany grabs a drink and pours it all over Melissa's clothes. Following this, Tiffany and Lori begin having a dance battle, which excites everyone. After dancing for a while, Tiffany runs out of moves, and starts falling clumsily, while Lori continues to steal the spotlight. The mean girl notices everyone cheering for Lori, including her own boyfriend, which leaves her feeling humiliated. Thankfully, one of Tiffany's supporters quickly turns off the music to save her from further embarrassment. Elsewhere, Melissa is in the locker room when the masked killer suddenly appears. She's startled at first, but soon assumes it's just someone playing a prank to scare her. However, the moment he reveals a cleaver, horror spreads across her face, and she runs for her life. Melissa manages to reach the door, but here we learn that there are two killers. And then this happens. The two killers then proceed to drag her lifeless body away, just as the voting process begins inside the prom hall. Later, Tiffany approaches Tyler and confronts him about staring at Lori all night, and making a fool of her. But the annoyed guy makes it clear he doesn't want her anymore and breaks up with her, leaving her further enraged. Elsewhere, Megan is sharing a joint with a random guy when a student bursts in. He's worried since Melissa went a while ago and still hasn't come back. Suddenly, Megan's eyes lock onto the killer in the red cloak slipping by. Her heart races as she tries to follow him, but the man quickly vanishes. The terrified girl rushes to the prom hall, and is shocked to notice that all of the prom queen candidates are missing, except Tiffany and Lori. Meanwhile, Tyler finally approaches Lori, and after a brief flirtation, leans in to kiss her, but they're interrupted by a frantic Megan, who reveals that she saw someone in a terrifying cloak. She also claims that she heard screaming, and now all prom queen candidates and their dates have suddenly vanished. She's convinced there's a killer out there targeting the prom queen candidates. However, Lori doesn't trust her, and coldly accuses her of being jealous. She thinks Megan is crazy, and can't stand seeing something good happening for her. Deeply hurt by the harsh words, Megan decides to back off. Tyler notices Lori's distress, and suggests they go somewhere private to relax. Elsewhere, Megan is confident she's not imagining things and tries to piece everything together. She recalls the flickering lights, and decides to head to the basement to check the power circuit. Meanwhile, Lori and Tyler arrive at the auditorium, where he once again tries to make a move on her. But Lori is upset about what just happened and isn't in the mood to make out. She tries to walk away, but he insists she stay. And then suddenly,
I thought you wanted more than stolen glances.
Lori freaks out upon seeing this and quickly bolts away from there. In another scene, Megan finally arrives in the basement, and is shocked to discover the janitor's lifeless body. Even worse, there are several more bodies lying around. Lori then comes across Megan in the basement, and they anxiously explain to each other what they've just witnessed. But when panicked duo tries to leave, one of the killers suddenly locks the door from outside, trapping them in the basement. Feeling helpless, the girls frantically wander the basement, desperate to find any possible way out. One of the killers soon catches them, forcing them to run wildly through the corridors to stay alive. By sheer luck, they discover an underground room, and lock themselves in. The girls catch their breath and look around, where they find the school yearbook with the victims' faces crossed out. A horrified Lori realizes that her best friend was right and apologizes to her. Seconds later, the killer starts smashing the door with an axe, right when the girls spot a window in the room. They break the window with a chair, but Megan ends up cutting her hand badly on the shards of glass. Despite the injury, she pushes through the pain and manages to escape. When it's Lori's turn, the killer catches up, but she bravely stabs him in the chest with one of the glass shards. This gives her enough time to be pulled away by Megan without getting hurt. After getting to safety, the girls rush to the hall, just as the principal announces the prom queen, who is none other than Lori Granger. Tiffany's face twists in rage while the crowd erupts in cheers for Lori. Just then, the killer arrives at the event, and casually kills two students, who cross his path. Lori climbs onto the stage and attempts to warn everyone, but no one pays attention to her words. When the killer is finally noticed, panic ensues and the crowd erupts into a frenzied stampede to escape. The stunned principal tries to confront the killer, but the masked maniac swiftly chops off his hand, causing him to collapse in agony. The killer then advances toward Lori to attack, but Megan jumps on his back to stop him. He easily overpowers her and is about to finish her off, but then, Lori grabs her prom crown and plunges it into his eye. With this, the killer finally takes off his mask. To everybody's shock, it turns out to be none other than their teacher, Dan, who is also Tiffany's dad. He still tries to attack others, so some of the guys hold him down. A distraught Tiffany approaches her dad, while even Nancy stands horrified by the whole sight. She tearfully asks why he did this, and Dan reveals he knew how badly Tiffany and Nancy wanted to win. Nancy seems disgusted by her husband's actions, and urges others to call the cops. Sometime later, the authorities arrive to arrest the killer, finally putting an end to the nightmare. Lori and Megan reconcile, and the prom queen tearfully apologizes to her friend for not trusting her earlier. After this emotional moment, Megan is taken to the hospital to get stitches on her injured hand. Meanwhile, the police inform Nancy that they need her to come with them to give a statement. As a result, Lori and Tiffany head back home together in the police car since they're neighbors. On the way, Tiffany apologizes to Lori for being mean to her all these years. She opens up, revealing that everything she did was to make her parents proud, because she never felt good enough for them. When they get home, Tiffany convinces Lori to stay with her, admitting she's shaken and desperately needs someone around. Elsewhere, Nancy tries to convince the cops to let her go home, saying she wants to check on her traumatized daughter. The officer agrees and lets her go, but it turns out to be a huge mistake. We soon see Nancy returning home with a smug grin, and a knife in her hand, revealing that she's the second killer. Upstairs, the girls are seen sleeping peacefully, but soon wake up to strange noises. They exit the room and are shell-shocked to see Nancy approaching them with a knife. Terrified, they immediately run and manage to hide in a closet. There, Tiffany begins freaking out, until she eerily begins to describe how the other students were killed. In a shocking twist, she pulls out a small knife from her pocket and lunges at Lori, revealing she was also part of the sinister plan. The latter narrowly dodges the attack and bolts out of the closet. Unfortunately, Nancy catches up to Lori and stabs her in the back. Here, Nancy shockingly reveals she used to date Lori's dad, before Rosemary came into the picture. She also proudly admits that she was the one who murdered him just because he dumped her. After saying this, Nancy raises the knife to attack her, but Tiffany insists on being the one to kill Lori. But as she's about to attack, the psycho girl falls and is gruesomely impaled with a sharp sculpture, resulting in her death. As a result, the vengeful mother quickly pursues Lori, and corners her in the living room. She is ready to strike with her knife, but Lori grabs a heavy trophy and slams it into Nancy's head. The blow sends her crashing to the ground, bloodied and severely injured. As Nancy lies on the verge of death, she weakly begs for help, but Lori coldly turns away and leaves the house. As the movie ends, we see a dying Nancy lying motionless. Her blood forms the shape of a satanic symbol, making it clear that her family was involved in something far more disturbing than anyone imagined. Okay guys, thanks for watching. See you again in the next video.